Welcome to the Social Engineer Podcast, episode 246. This is the Human Element Series. I am Chris Hadnegi, CEO and founder of Social Engineer LLC, the Innocent Lives Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering. And I've been hosting this podcast since way back in 2009. A couple quick housekeeping announcements before we get into our show. If the sponsor for the show is none other than Social Engineer LLC. If your company is dealing with any of the threats out there right now, and I'm sure you are, right? We're all dealing with phishing, smishing, all the other ishings that are happening each and every day to us. And you're wondering, how can we possibly teach our people to be aware and protected of those things? Then you should hop on over to social-engineer.com. Or if you're looking for a career change or you want to enhance your career, wondering how you can become a professional social engineer, we actually have, now we have classes set up to help you get into that path and find a career as a professional social engineer. You can find all that information for our 2024 training schedule as well as our services on social-engineer.com. Also, if you like the topic of social engineering, you might want to join our Slack channel. There's about 1,500 people in there now every day talking about all aspects of SE. We even have a job board. I think we've had about 10 or 11 people find employment now because they've come in and said, hey, I'm looking for work, and companies that were in there were looking to hire, and we've made some nice matches there. But we have a family-friendly legal chat about social engineering. So if that sounds like you should join us. If it doesn't sound like you, then you shouldn't join us. But if you want the link, you can get it in the show notes. If you can't find it, ping me on LinkedIn or one of the other socials, and I will get it right to you. Also want to invite everyone to take a look at innocentlivesfoundation.org. That organization, we started that about 6.5 years ago, and its mission is to help law enforcement geolocate and track people who traffic children and create child abuse material. In the last 6.5 years, we've been blessed to be able to do over 508 cases now. And I'm just so proud of the team there. They're just amazing, hardworking people. We have close to 40 volunteers and 5 employees working on this mission to try to save children from those horrors that we spoke about. So if you're a parent or a caregiver and you want to know some information how you can keep your kids safe, there's lots of info on the website. If you want to volunteer to be part of the organization, you can do that on the website, or you can donate. Since we're a 501c3, we can definitely use your help to stay afloat. And that is all on innocentlivesfoundation.org. If you like the intro and outro music of this podcast, if you're not on YouTube, then you can listen to none other than Clutch, the best rock and roll band on planet Earth. As a matter of fact, the lead singer, Neil, is one who helped me start ILF way back 6.5 years ago. So we're huge fans of them, been huge fans of them since I was a kid, and they were gracious enough to let us use one of their songs for this podcast. And last but not least, if you like the information you're hearing on this podcast, give us a thumbs up, a like, whatever it is on the platform you're listening to. And please give your suggestions. We love them. When you give us topic suggestions or things you want to hear, that really helps us come up with new guests or new topics that we can talk about in some of the other episodes. Okay, let's get to our guest, Layne Gneiting. He's not just your average guy, and I can guarantee this is the truth. And his family's a little bit bigger than most because he's got 8 kids. Crazy, right? 8 kids. He lives in an 1,800 square foot home in the heart of suburbia, but he still wakes up in a panic most Friday mornings when the garbage truck rumbles down the street. We're going to probably talk about why that is. However, Layne has a secret identity. Twice a year, he straps on his super suit, which is a bicycle jersey, and he sweeps executives and doctors into the biggest adventure of their lives. It came from the biggest kick in the butt, which was cycling across America, which just sounds like an impossible task. Now Layne guides teams or gone alone by bike through 49 countries. And this year, he's finally going to publish the stories about all of those trips that he's taken. Layne, thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you.
Chris, great to be here. Great to hear your voice and see your grin.
Good to be chatting with you again, too. And we've been friends for quite a few years. And you started this amazing little idea here. So first, before we get into the idea, just tell me, how did you get up one day and say, I'm going to bike across America? Like, that's not a small task. It's not like I'm going to go bike in my state. Like, you want to cross the country.
Well, back in the days of dial-up, you remember those, as dinosaurs.
I remember
that?
Yeah.
I'd get on and I would go into some dark places on the internet. And then one day I got latched on to a guy who'd cycled across America. And back then it was not the information superhighway it is. The information was pretty sparse.
Yeah.
But I read about people who went across America, came back, gutted their garage or quit their jobs. And it blew my mind. Like, why in the world does anybody do that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to know more. I wanted to experience whatever they experienced to make them do that.
Because you wanted to know more, you decided to do it.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of websites about skydiving and stuff, and I never said, you know what? I want to know what that feels like. I'm just going to go jump out of a plane.
Maybe you should, Chris.
Maybe I should. I don't know. Okay. So you go and you bike across America. Did you then come home and gut your garage and quit your job?
No, I didn't. But
Okay.
instead, it showed me that anything is possible. Anything. It blew my mind. It was tougher. It was richer. It was more extraordinary than anything I could have fathomed. And when I came back, I was having a conversation with, you could say, God, my higher power, my inner self, whatever moniker you want to use. And I said, well, okay, what's next? And this inner voice said, I want you to write. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm too scared of what people are going to say about me. So what else? And I was led through a process where at the end, I looked at what I'd written and it said, cycle every country in the world.
Wow.
I mean, that shook me, Chris. Like, how in the world do you get into Russia, North Korea, and Afghanistan, and all these countries
or Antarctica? How are you gonna cycle across that?
Fortunately, it's not a country according to the UN definition,
Okay.
so that's off the table.
Okay. Woo, I was getting worried for you there. But yeah, some of those other countries, I mean, they're not safe. Yeah.
Right now, they're not.
Right.
But
Maybe in the future.
But here's the crazy thing that I've experienced, Chris, is that there's so many of these that I thought, oh, you don't go there. And I let me tell you a story. I was in North Macedonia and a buddy of mine said, okay, you need to go to this lake. It's the big resort. Everybody goes there. It's beautiful, but don't go this road. They're Albanians. You want to stay away from the Albanians. I'm like, okay, all right, thanks. Well, guess which route I took?
You took the road that you weren't supposed to.
Of course.
Of course.
I got there, pulled into a little town, and as soon as I leaned my bike up against a wall and wiped the sweat off my brow, a girl from the corner shop came bustling over with a banana in one hand and a can of juice in the other. And when I tried to pay her, she goes, no, just for you.
Wow. Just friendly people.
Friendly. And that's why I think cycle touring is so magical, is that it messes with the mental map in your head that you've got about other people and it shreds it.
Okay. So let's back up a quick second. How long did it take you to go across America?
3 months, almost to the day.
And is that one shot? You just took 3 months off of your life and just, wow.
Well, when you're a professor, you don't teach during the summer. It's an added luxury.
And did you go from East Coast to West Coast to East? Which route did you go?
Yeah, went along the northern tier, hugging Canada from the western tip of Washington to the eastern tip of Maine.
Okay. Wow. That's an interesting path. So you didn't go down the middle. You took a rough path.
It was challenging.
Yeah. I mean, you took like the most mountainous path you could have probably taken, right? So before you did this, were you a cyclist?
So I would say no and yes. I wasn't till I got to Arizona, but I bought a $5 mountain bike, old beefy junky thing, as my commute to ASU, because we were, I had a bunch of kids, poor, struggling to get my doctorate, and my wife needed the car. So I went 12 miles each way just to get to school and back. And then, Chris, it was magical. Like, you were able to wrestle with the thoughts in your head and just be present. And so soon the 12 miles stretched the opposite direction, going 20 and 30 and 50. And then I thought, hey, I don't want to just go around here. I want to see all these amazing places that I've never been to.
Okay. So we did the America thing. And then you come up with this crazy idea that not only are you going to cycle across other countries, but you're going to invite other people, like in your bio, we said like doctors and executives and other people to go on this trip with you. Tell me how this idea even came about.
Well, it came about just really putting it out there to friends of mine, acquaintances. I said, hey, look, I'm going to go from Amsterdam up to Norway. Who's in? And a buddy of mine said, we'd only known each other about a year. But he said, I got ancestors in Norway. I've always wanted to go there. I'm in. He was an executive at this rising star company here in the Valley. And when he came back, he said, it's growth times a bazillion. He said, we got to get this to people. And so that sparked an idea that, hey, let's really take it to companies and people who are suffering and who want to grow in leaps and bounds rather than baby steps. And let's give it to them.
So in a trip like that, how long does that take? Like that when you said from Amsterdam to Norway, how long is that?
Well, he was with me for 2 weeks.
So you take these guys for 2 weeks. They just take off of life and work and everything, and they just go biking across multiple countries.
Now it's scaled down to like a week or a week and a half.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. So a week and a half. And do you like, does your business include like hotel rooms? Like, tell me, how does that work? Like, where are you staying at?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Oh, that's not what I expected. Okay. So where do you stay? You sleep on the side of the road?
Yes. So this is part of the magic, Chris. We live in a very cushy world. We control our environment. We get in the air-conditioned car, get into the air-conditioned house. Well, in our program, we load you up with a trailer that hooks onto the back of your bike. We stay in campgrounds. We live out of a tent. I mean, occasionally we'll stay at an Airbnb or a hotel, but usually it's with strangers or it's at campgrounds.
Wow. So, okay, we got to back up here. So you're biking down the road. Some Norwegian lady comes out and waves to you and you say, can I sleep in your house tonight?
I wish. That sounds cool. That'd be amazing. Instead, what happens is you strike up conversations with people because they're curious. You're an oddity. Why in the world are you cycling not on the tourist beats, but in the the quiet paths? Mm-hmm. And because they're eaten up with curiosity, they ask you questions. They find out more, and they then say, "Well, do you want to stay here, or do you want to come have supper?" And you do.
And how many people are on this trip with you?
Oh, about 8.
8. So when you have that conversation, are they inviting 8 people in for dinner?
Yeah.
Wow. And how many times has this happened where you've gotten random strangers to invite you and 8 other random strangers into their house for dinner?
So, I wouldn't say that it's frequent that happens. Like they don't necessarily invite you for dinner or to stay in our bedroom here. Yeah. Instead, what they do is like in Greece, there were 3 things that happened. Boom, boom, boom. 1, we pulled into a plaza and a guy started yelling at us. We're like, what? He's like, don't get the water there. Come here. And he started handing us water and tea and coffee and because he's a shop owner and that's what he could give. Uh-huh. The second thing, we pulled into like a middle of nowhere. It wasn't even a village. It was just a sprinkle of houses. And a guy said, what? You guys are biking? Come here. Come to my home. We're going to feed you. We're like, no, you don't want to do that. And he said, yeah, we do. Come here. Outside, they laid out a big spread and took us on a tour of the place. And later I stayed with them once everybody had left and I needed to get back. Third thing, we pulled into one town. They had a church there. An old woman in an old rickety beat up car pulled up, cocked her head at us, mumbled something in Greek and kind of made gestures. And we said, yeah, we're biking. She goes, stay here. 5 minutes. I'll be back. She left. She came back. She had a tray of pastries and a bottle of wine.
So, I mean, do you just look that up? Are the people not biking all over? Like why? I'm just curious. Like, I've been walking through many countries, just walking, not biking, and never had like strangers pull up and like bring me wine and pastries and things like that. Like,
that's because of the beard, Chris.
That's new.
Just
That's new. It's just so interesting, you know?
Well, here's the element that I think really connects here. And I love the name of this podcast. You said the Human Element podcast.
Yep.
Well, the human element about these crazy adventures is that they strip away who you think you are and expose who you really are.
Mm.
And people connect with that. They see it, they sense it, they feel it, they hear it. And there's and the other part of it is, I think really people have wanderlust. They are curious about what's on the other side of the fence, on the border, what's Ukraine like? What is Russia like? Are the people really as bad as the leaders?
I can tell you no to that. I've been to Russia. The people were great. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, the people were great, you know, and I know some Ukrainian folks and they're great too. So, so you said something interesting. You said that, changes it changes people. It opens their horizons, broadens their horizons. How does that happen? Like, how does taking a bike ride change someone's life?
You know, the magic about a bike ride versus something like hiking or kayaking or something like that is it does two things. Like hiking and those other activities, it exposes you constantly to Mother Earth. Mm. So as you're crawling over the contours of Mother Earth, feeling the kiss of the wind and the massage of the rain, all of that exposure causes you to, we all have this bubble and we take it everywhere we go. It's a bubble of protection. Well, because we're constantly exposed to the elements, that bubble kind of melts away and the layers peel back. So that's part of it. And then the other part is it requires you to interact with people you don't know, people in foreign land on their terms, not your terms.
Right.
Because you're on their turf. And so you, as you strike up these interactions, you suddenly don't give two rats about what they vote, who their God is, or any of that stuff. All you know is here's a human being and I'm going to connect with him.
So that must be a powerful, effect for people. I mean, I've had experiences similar to that in traveling where you just like receive this amazing amount of hospitality or something. And, in a place maybe that you didn't expect it, something that you didn't really expect. And it does kind of change you. It opens your eyes to a different thing. And I wouldn't say that, at least my family and I are not going into things with any prejudice, but maybe just not an expectation of that level of kindness. And then you get it. And then you're like, whoa, wow, that's kind of weird. Wow, didn't think that would happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I could see how I could see how having that day after day, while also physically exerting yourself. Because I imagine these things aren't easy. Like some of the countries you said, I've been to those countries. They sound quite mountainous. I mean, Norway's like ridiculous. They don't just have hills there. They have real mountains.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I love the mountains, Chris, because that's where people finally let go of something they've been clinging to.
Because they go of my heart, I think, if I tried to ride one of those. I don't think we drove through Norway once and we drove through Norway and we were with a bunch of friends and we had a van. There were some hills driving up in Norway that I didn't think the van was going to make it, let alone me on a bicycle. That's just ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yep, yeah. I agree. It's insane.
It is. But yet you get people to do this. So how many times? So in the bio, you said 49 countries. Mm-hmm. So you've done this in 49 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say what your favorite country was to bike through?
You know, what's funny, Chris, is that is the most commonly asked question.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it's like saying, this is my favorite kid.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Okay. So can you give me one of your favorite countries and the reason why you enjoyed it so much, or one of your favorite stories from a country?
Well, I don't really have any stories from this country, but India was fabulous.
Wow.
I mean,
and where did you go? Where did you bike through in India?
It was right before COVID hit. We went from we went south from the eastern side. I think it's the Bengal Sea over to the Indian Ocean.
Wow.
Is that what it is? I forget. And anyway, we went across. And what was amazing about that, a good buddy of mine from India who grew up in Mumbai said, Layne, no, don't go through India. That's ridiculous. But since you're committed, I'm going to help you. And over there, yeah, you've seen videos or you've been there where the traffic, they have no rules.
No.
I mean, they have lanes, but they're more like guidelines, and everyone's bumper to bumper and five across. And
yeah, they'll just run you down.
Well, that's what you think, right? Except it all works if you just follow their flow. And you've got bicycles going, this way and that way, and you've got little tuk-tuks and they're going the wrong way, and all the cars, and they end up like scrunching together in the middle of a village or a town, and it's a big snarl of traffic and people, and you think, I'm going to die if I even try to get through that.
Yes, exactly what I would be thinking.
But you realize everyone's aware of everybody else, and they're all trying to get there, and you just get in that flow, you go through, and pretty soon you're through the other side. Wow.
So how many people did you have with you on that trip?
I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6.
Wow. Now, in some countries, it seems like it would be really unsafe to just sleep in a tent or something. So when you're planning your route, are you also planning the route thinking of like, well, if we have to sleep outside, I'm just thinking like some wildlife in certain areas. Like I know in India, in certain parts, they can have tigers, or they can have these very poisonous snakes, or, insects that aren't really, friendly, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So when you're planning the route, how are you taking all that into consideration?
That's a great question. I will say in India, we stayed in hotels every time.
Okay.
They were just so dang cheap.
Yeah.
That why wouldn't you? And there's no camping infrastructure.
Right.
So when I'm designing a route, there are 3 things I look at. But let me answer your question first. I look for designated campgrounds, and I look for possible backups within that area. If the rain hits and we can't get to this campground, what's our option?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things you have to consider, elements being outside.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever cycle like in times that are colder, or is it you always try to choose spring and winter, or spring and summer?
I try to go in the shoulder season, which, spring and fall for the most part.
Yeah.
But no, in fact, we just did New Zealand, and one of my guys called me up this week, and he goes, Layne, I just got to tell you, I'm in Arkansas. It's rainy. They thought it was going to snow. It was just a miserable day. It's in the morning, and I'm in line at a kiosk next to Walmart serving coffee and tea and chocolate. And a guy was staring at the sky going, oh, this is just awful. And my friend just spontaneously popped out, oh, yeah, this is nothing. I've cycled in worse than this.
So what was the weather? Was the weather bad in New Zealand?
I wouldn't say bad because that puts a negative or assigns a label to it. Was it windy? Absolutely. Was it rainy at times? You betcha. Was it cold? Yeah. One morning we woke up. It had rained a little through the night and went to shake the rain off. And no, it was ice.
Wow. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I didn't think I for some reason I just thought New Zealand didn't get that cold. I don't know. That's a fallacy on my part. I just thought it was like Australia, it's like warm all the time or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can assure you it's not.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So this sounds like an interesting business, the thing that you came up with. What type of people are these? Like adventure seekers? These type of people that always come to these I don't know what to call them, courses, classes. How do you?
Yeah, programs. My clients come because one, they've either killed it in their business and they're looking for a different kind of story. Like, hey, I've read all about and I've seen all about other people doing these crazy things. I don't want to do the typical tourist bus trap. I don't want to go on a typical vacation. They realize that that's like cotton candy, sweet, but really doesn't nourish you. So they come because, there's something, a spark within them that wants something more. And they sign up and they train for 4 months leading up to it. And some people say, that's all I needed right there.
That's kind of cool. What about someone who's not an avid biker, like someone who doesn't bike at all?
Yeah. Most of my clients are not.
Really?
Yeah.
And they go biking across New Zealand or Norway and they're not cyclists?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't, I don't know. That's what? Doesn't make sense.
Chris, in fact, that's what I prefer is when they're not cyclists, because a cyclist mentality is, I'm just going to look straight forward, blinders on, get there the fastest possible way I can and get my personal record.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So it's like anyone who does that for sport, they have a mission. You're doing this as an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does is it immerses them in the experience so that they can, they get a taste for and then can quickly drop into the state of flow.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. If someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I need more information, where do they go to get information on this?
Yeah, they can go to the website. It's wayofthehero.com.
We'll make sure there's a link in the show notes.
Okay. And no www in front of it. For some reason, it goes nowhere. Or they can reach out to me directly. I love having conversations, whether they come or not. That's irrelevant. The important thing is to have conversations with interesting people.
Yeah.
So my phone, I don't think I give you the phone number, but it's 480-208-1460.
That will be out there. What's your next trip? What's the one coming up?
Morocco.
And when?
Morocco is in October.
Okay. So you heard it here, guys and gals. If you're interested in biking across Morocco, how many miles will that be?
So that'll be about 400 miles.
And where are you starting and going?
Oh, it's exciting. We start in Marrakesh. You get to see all the markets and the colors and everything there. And then we hit the mountains. But the great thing is I found a guy who had rooted, through the mountains on the less traveled roads. And he said, it's just spectacular. We end up over at the coast and we follow the coastline for a while. So we get both the mountains and the coast.
Nice.
And the small villages in between.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And that's a week? You do all that in a week?
No, that's going to be a week and a half.
I was going to say like 450 or so miles. Like that's your booking. If you're doing that in a week, you got some speed going.
We average about 50 miles a day.
Okay.
We stop a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We journal, we photograph, we meet people. It's not about just doing a marathon and hurrying up.
Yeah. Well, you're there to enjoy the culture and the country.
Mm-hmm.
So when does your book come out? Do you have a plan for that?
So right now I don't have like a date for the book.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, right now I've recruited people to read the manuscript, give me feedback so it can improve.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, it's exciting. I mean, I think these are going to be really cool stories. You probably got some amazing pictures from your travels in there.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
It's going to be really cool to see that. Okay. We got a couple questions we always ask as we conclude, but, most of us have not gotten to where we were without some help. So I know for me, there's been at least a handful or more of people I would consider amazing mentors in my life. Who would you consider to be some of your greatest mentor or mentors?
One key mentor is a storyteller named Odds Bodkin. This guy is one of the most talented individuals I've ever encountered. He tells stories with a soundtrack that he plays on his 12-string guitar, and he has a village of character voices.
Huh.
I spent a day with him, and at the time, it was an unholy amount of money, I thought, being impoverished, to go work with him. It was a pittance compared to the massive amount of value that I gained.
Uh-huh.
And the number one thing he gave was that, Layne, you don't have to follow somebody else's script. You can create your own.
Nice advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice advice. I like that. I'm going to look that guy up. That's interesting. I've never heard of him, so I love it when I get to hear new things, right? Something new. I haven't heard that one before.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. Our listeners since 2009, I've been doing this as kind of like it became a ritual now. We ask every guest what are their favorite book or books. And then we add it to a reading list. So it doesn't have to be about biking or cycling or anything we talked about. It could just be anything. But what would you say is a book that you would recommend for everyone to read?
So I'm going to tell you two.
Okay.
One of them is called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Absolutely fascinating. It is the best living example of the hero's journey I've ever seen. Second one is a book I think you would love because it's the best example of human hacking I've ever seen. And it's called The King of Atolia.
Of Atolia?
King of Atolia. It's the third in a series. And his ability to shape his circumstances is just baffling and enlightening.
So neither of those have ever been recommended in 246 episodes. So
now they have.
Yeah, now they have. I love that because sometimes we get, like we've had Robert Cialdini's influence that recommend a lot and stuff, but I like it when we get either like, fiction books or something that people haven't ever heard of because we had a lot of readers that just love to read to learn, but also just read for fun. So that's really great. I'm just writing them down so we get them in the show notes. Make sure that they're listed.
Both of these are fantastic because they have the entertainment value, but the learning is deep.
That's nice. And that's good. I like it when you can get a little bit of both in a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really nice. So Layne, if people, besides your website, if people want to reach out to you, is there a preferred way you want them to do that?
Yeah, I would love to get an email or a text.
Okay. So there it is. We have, we'll put all the information in the show notes for anyone who wants to learn more. Definitely go to wayofthehero.com. Check out the upcoming trips and events and courses that will be there and see if you can join Layne in Morocco. Thanks for coming on the show today, Layne. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Love being with you, Chris. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us this month. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Next month, we'll be with a U.S. Secret Service agent, Brad Beeler. Really excited about that one too. Until then, everyone stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you then. See you.